As the IOC, there's really three levels we look at. One, ourselves as an organization, the International Olympic Committee. The second is around the Olympic Games and what we do with the hosts and the organizers of the Olympic Games. And the third is what we do as a wider Olympic movement with all of the international federations, the National Olympic Committees, all of our commercial partners. We know that in regard to climate change, sport is not only a victim of change, it's actually a contributor. And I think Ingmar said it earlier, that we all have to ask ourselves the question, what can we do? We can't just say, what can we do in response? And how can we adapt? What can we do to actually change and address this challenge that we're collectively facing? So as the IOC, we work very closely across the whole industry. Specifically around the Olympic Games, we work in 4 areas. The first is trying to manage the carbon plans around the Olympic organization, not only reducing the carbon impact, but replacing that. Secondly, we look at a holistic resource management plan and enforce that in all of the contracts around the Games to try and reduce the amount of materials being used, reduce the amount of impact that every step of the planning and the operations have. The third is around the venue planning. And here we're having this discussion right now in Stockholm, for example, about how to use existing venues as much as possible. We've seen this across all recent games. In Tokyo, for example, we increased the number of the usage of existing venues, including those right back from 1964 by 50%, from the bid through to the actual delivery.
A lot of cement being saved right there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same in Beijing. If you take the Olympic Winter Games that are coming up, you know, we've in a country that is aiming to introduce 300 million people into winter sport, who will not only be using those winter facilities, but learning about winter sport, learning about the impacts of climate change in a country as important as China. You know, they're using all of the indoor venues that they used in Beijing in 2008 for indoor sport in 2022. It's the same in Paris, and I'm sure it'll be the same in either Stockholm or in Italy in 2026. And the last part of what we're trying to do with the organisers is just look at the mobility plans and the transport. I think it was touched on in regard to the athletes, to try and use public transport rather than private transport, to try and use hybrid electric vehicles where possible. So we take a holistic approach to that. The other 2 key things we do as the IOC is use our ability to engage with international organisations, primarily the United Nations. I think some of the speakers earlier touched on it. We all need to make a local and individual impact, but we can't do it alone. And whatever Sweden does is impacted by what China, India and other countries do. I come from New Zealand, it's the same thing. We can act in an environmentally friendly way, but we're impacted in what happens in Asia, in Africa. So to work with organisations like the UN is absolutely fundamental to have a global impact. And finally, I think some of the athletes and some of the others touched on it. We have to use our ability as organisations, and particularly as athletes, to inspire, to get the message across. It's the athletes that increasingly have an impact in terms of getting the message on any key subjects across. Increasingly, we see a little bit of resistance to institutions and institutional messages, but using people like the athletes to highlight the challenges, to highlight the ability for us to act is critical moving forward.
Thank you. So does this indeed mean that if you look at the Olympic application as sort of as a procurement procedure, do you sort of tick off special boxes when it comes to all these examples that you just lined up?
Yeah, it's one part of it. The whole procurement process, the whole contracting process, how we can reuse existing materials, and where we do need to build new structures, how can we reuse the materials in that construction
I mean
process?
sort of more of the entire application. Do you sort of tick off boxes when it comes to all these aspects?
Exactly, that's the second part of it. One, it's a philosophy that has to guide everything in terms of the approach, and using it not only in the organisation of the Games, but using the Games as a platform to promote the wider cause of addressing climate change.
So if you're not sustainable enough in your application, you're by default you're not eligible.
It has to be built into every step, and there have to be carrots and sticks applied to it in terms of penalties as well.
Thank you. Sofia Domé and Karin Mattsson, you're presidents of 2 ski associations, and you both arrange big events. Congratulations, by the way, both of you. Please tell us about your way forward. I'll start with you, Karin, in the light of climate change.
First of all, I'd like to say that the work against negative climate change really has to be a team effort. And I think that no one of us can step out of responsibility for that. So I think the athletes and what they say and how they can inspire people and give hope is so important, because today so many people has a lot of negative feelings when it comes to climate change, and they're afraid and so on. And I think we need to really put some positive energy into what we really can do. When it comes to the championships, we have worked a lot together, and it started with an agreement together with the municipalities in Åre and Östersund, and both championships, and also the county governor and the region, to work for fossil fuel-free championships. So we started with that, and then we added on a cooperation with the Federation of Swedish Farmers, because the food and the beverage are so important, so we have a lot of locally produced food. And then in Åre, which I worked most closely with, we also were certified internationally, and the first sustainability certified Alpine Ski Championships ever. So we really try to take a holistic perspective on sustainability.
And if you look at the process, how hard versus inspiring and fun has this been?
I was a little bit afraid maybe in the beginning that it would be more hard and putting ban on things and so on, but I think it was totally the opposite. We've learned a lot, we have developed, the event got better than it would have been if we hadn't done this, and I think a lot of people has been inspired, and then taking these ideas and the knowledge with them after the championships and into the sort of ordinary normal life at home.
That's important, absolutely. Karin, you've obviously learned from the event in Åre. Please tell us a bit about how you have done the process here in Östersund.
Yes, first, of course, we are happy and satisfied with the cooperation together with Åre and together with the other that Karin also mentioned. But I have to say that I'm proud, because the organization committee here in Östersund have been working with these questions for a long time. It started already 2008. There we mainly focused on the energy use, for example, district heating in our tents. And during the years... The district heating.
District heating, thank you.
Yeah. And then during the World Cups, from 2008 until now, we have been taking steps to give less environmental impact. And of course, the big step is to this World Championship. And now we have a new sustainability policy and implementation plan with goals to follow, and I'm proud about that. And overall, the goal is to be fossil-free in all areas where we have the power to decide, of course. That's important. But Ulla mentioned some of the things that we have done here. I can also mention this.
It's okay, just brag. It's good. We need good inspiration. Just bring it on.
Okay, I'm going to keep on going. Oh, sorry. Yes, we have our fossil-free car fleet. And our temporary buildings at the stadium, the tents, for example, are heated with renewable energy. The carbon footprint from all food we serve is calculated, and we compensate for that, for the red meat. That's one thing. And I tried to talk with the visitors and the volunteers here, and my feeling is that they are very impressed, and they are happy that we are working with these questions. And of course, now you talked about the athletes. That's also very important for us, that the athletes are taking also this responsibility, and that they want to make these changes that we have to do.
When you hear the young athletes specifically, because they were quite strong in their statements, how does it touch you? What does it feel in your system when you hear it? The strafrunda that they're talking about.
Yeah, I think they have. That was good that they said that, because maybe we can use that words. Maybe we have to
penalty.
The people that yes, then we get a penalty loop. So we have to take care of the things that we are not taking care of.
Hans von Utman, you're board member of the Swedish Olympic Committee. You've been around, of course, here at the event and at the championships. What is your What is your take on what's been going on in terms of the work with creating a fossil-free event?
Well, I think these two championships definitely set very good examples and inspirations for us in our application for the Winter Olympics and the Paralympics for 2026. We focus a lot in that application, as Kit already mentioned, on sustainability. Not only, but clearly involving environment and climate neutrality, but also on social and financial aspects as well. And we set a very high standard. We want to create a legacy of not being satisfied with only being neutral. We actually want to make it positive. Mm-hmm. So that's a very strong inspiration for us in our work. And I can add to what Kit just said, that if, or should I say when, we arrange the Winter Olympics and the Paralympics in 2026, we will reuse an arena that was used in the Olympics of 1912.
Mm-hmm. Well, if, of course, we need to say if. Is there need for, I mean, the people sitting here in the audience and following us online are probably quite involved in climate change and climate action already. But do you, as a group here, and anybody can answer, do you feel that there is need for more knowledge, or is it just action that is needed now? Do we need to educate people more, or do you feel, now for instance for you, Karin, that you've been talking to delivery people, to people procurement-wise, do they have the right amount of knowledge, or do they still question what is this good for?
Well, I can start. I think that, of course, differs. Some people are very skilled in this and some are less skilled, but you can always learn more. So, of course, I think education is important. I think action, but as I said earlier, I think inspiring people is so important. This is something interesting. This is something that helps our operations to be even better, and this is something I can learn from. So what I miss many times is inspiring people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes, here in Östersund we have had an education for all the 1,000 volunteers. So I think that's a good way, and I think that also inspires them to know more. And of course they talk with a lot of people. We have a lot of spectators, and also with other organizations.
So you basically shaped 1,000 influencers.
Exactly.
Not bad.
No, it's good.
Kit McDonald, could you do that at the Olympic Games?
I think we have to. I don't think it's a question of can we or should we. I think we have to, for all of the reasons that everyone has touched on. To come back to your question directly, action is vital. But I think to make that action really have an impact and join it up with other initiatives being taken individually in different parts of the world by different industries, I think that needs some coordination and certainly some education. We all feel like we want to do something. Probably everyone in this room is doing something, but I think educating people about what the challenges are, what the most effective measures we can all take in our daily work and other actions we take is absolutely vital. So sharing that information and making sure people are educated is really important along the way. And the way to do that is to inspire, not just out of fear, but actually out of excitement about making a difference. And here again, the 350 athletes we have here from over 30 countries, Ole, I think are some of the best ambassadors we can use to take that message back to their local communities and use them as an inspiration as well.
Thank you. Hans?
I think absolutely true. We need to educate or inspire, including ourselves. And in our campaign, in our work, we work a lot together with some NGOs, LO, the labor union organization, the Red Cross and the World Wildlife Fund have probably been the most influential, not only in taking advice, but in actually involving them in our work, in our planning, having them influencing us, challenging us to do better work and plan for better Olympics and a better Paralympics. They're deeply involved, and we need that.
Well, the world of sports, of course, is an enormously uniting force. It's a platform of joy. It's a platform of sharing. So use it. Please. Continue. Give the panel here a warm hand.